Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Today we're going to do some reaction and see how it works. So I'm gonna do some reaction between playing videos. Mainly recently I've been playing Dark Souls a lot. And I'll probably play Dark Souls later as well. But I want to react to some videos. So right now I saw a video that was very popular. It was very interesting video that I saw, and I was very curious about it because it's very intriguing subject. The subject that they are talking about. They're talking about why tipping is so out of control in the U.S. I think that saying in the U.S. is very inclusive, like excluding like other countries. But to be honest, like I'm from Israel, and I can tell the tipping is extremely crazy over here as well. Later on, I will tell you a little bit about situations that happened to me personally whenever I had to deal with situation when people they were expecting me to tip, because I think that it's something that I don't know where tipping started, but I think that like tipping is a problem that most countries have. I mean, some people will consider it as a problem, some people don't. But if you think about it, there are so many types of jobs, but only certain types of jobs are the type of jobs that you are expected to be tipped. And usually the jobs that you are accepted to be tipped at are usually the types of jobs that the boss pays you very low wages, because usually the people who go to work at those kind of jobs tend to be the people who rely on the tips as their way of income, which in my opinion is a horrible thing to do. You should never go to a place and expect that you need tipping in order to make a living. You should come to a workplace to work that you know that you have a contract with the boss, that he pays you X amount of money. And okay, let's say you want tips, okay, no problem. But you shouldn't go into a job thinking that, oh, I need tipping in order to finish the month, in order to have enough money for the end of the month to pay the bills. No, you should go to a job that you have a contract, you know approximately how much you're getting paid, and then on top of that, if you would have a nice day, a nice interaction with a customer or something like that, and he wants to tips you, that's very cool, you get extra money, but it's not required of him. I think that's something that people takes wrong. Anyway, let's get to the video. I'm really curious to see what do you think about that whole situation. Okay, here we go.
When was the last time you purchased something and you weren't asked for a tip? Yeah, I can't remember either.
Tipping culture has gotten out of control. I get up to the pay window and she's like, how much do you want to tip? What am I gonna tip you for? I'm in the drive-thru. Oh my God.
Tips have been on the rise for decades. During the 1950s, people commonly tipped 10% of the bill. By the 1970s,
10% of the bill. Like, it doesn't matter like how you're getting paid, like how much you are paying, you are expected to pay 10% more. But I think that now it went up. Let's see.
In the 1980s, that jumped to 15%.
15%.
Today, people
Oh
tip
my
anywhere
fucking
from
God.
15 to 25%.
That's horrible.
According to one 2022 survey, consumers said they tipped more than 21% on average.
Nowadays, there are people who argue 20% is kind of a cheap tip.
While the percentage that consumers are tipping at full-service restaurants in the past couple of years has remained about the same, in the fourth quarter of 2022, the number of tips provided at full-service restaurants grew 17%.
17%.
Meanwhile, the tip frequency at quick-service restaurants such as coffee shops and fast food chains rose 16% during the same time period.
What we're seeing now nationwide is something that is known as tipflation.
Tipflation.
At every opportunity, we're being presented with a tablet that's asking us how much we'd like to tip.
In many cases, not only replacing the old-fashioned tip jars that you could feel good about throwing some spare change into, but actually suggesting tip amounts, often right in front of the employee receiving that tip. Not to mention all.
In my opinion, that's really like how would I describe it? It's like very emotionally manipulative thing, you know? Say you were going to a coffee shop right now and you're standing in a counter and you're about to pay the money. You paid the money already and he tells you, hey, how about tipping me? Now, you look behind you and there are like a lot of people who are looking back at you, and you know, everybody are looking at you, and the employee is also waiting for you to like put the amount of tip that you want to give. And you know, it's a very stressful and very shameful situation to be at. Now, if you would look at that, not only does they ask you to tip, but they also provide you the amounts that they would like you to tip. I wonder, I personally haven't been in this situation, but I wonder if there are actually some places you go to tip and there is also a no tip option disabled, like disabled or unavailable, and you're like in a situation when you want to avoid tipping, but you don't have this option. Like actually having to go to the costume button, pressing on it, and like typing 0, dude, that's fucking shameful. This is a very horrible experience. And like you need to look at the eyes to the, you know, the guy you were buying from. Not a good situation.
Right in front of the employee receiving that tip. Not to mention also your dinner date and the dozen or so people standing behind you in line.
And it's gone beyond just the tablets. The other day I was using the Hopper app to book a hotel, and it wasn't until I confirmed my payment that I realized my hotel was $10 more expensive.
Yeah,
Turns out
this is
Hopper assumed I wanted to add a tip, and I had to go back to a prior page in order to opt out.
this is nasty. This is nasty. When you go to an app and you have like in a very small section it says, "Oh, by the way, this is the price," but if you read the very, very small letters, you will notice that we are taking extra 10% out of you without telling you and without letting you do the mental calculation of how much you're going to pay us. That's sneaky. That's like, you know, guys, if you've ever downloaded, like, now it's less common, but maybe, I think it is less common, but it used to be very common, like when you download like a software. Usually people who download softwares and want to install them, they go to the install wizard, and they usually, there are, you know, the section that you choose whether you want to install the game, software, whatever, and then you have section that you disable or enable some features, and then like it says to you, oh, it's going to install, I don't know, eBay toolbar or some other stupid toolbar in your computer. And like usually people who go to those install pages, they're extremely like, you know, laid back and like lazy. So what they do is they just go and press the next button until the installation is finished, right? So I think this is like people doing it on purpose. They are preying on your inability to read the small letters, and like on just wanting to finish with all of the stupid stuff. And yeah, they're just taking advantage of this. And I guess that some people tipped and they didn't even notice they tipped. I'm sure of this, and I'm sure that the system was made with this those type of people, to prey on those type of people in mind, as part of this whole, you know, like designing the UI of the application.
Tipflation refers to not just that we're tipping more, but we're tipping everyone for everything.
You're being guilted into tipping on something that is not technically a service. It's someone simply doing their job. In those situations, consumers are feeling resentful. Where do you draw the line?
TIP stands for to ensure promptness. Tipping may go back as far as the Roman era, but according to most experts,
To ensure promptness. This is something I never knew. It's very interesting that like tip actually has a meaning behind it. I just assumed that this word just existed forever.
the practice likely has its origins in medieval Europe.
Noblemen taking passage on roads would throw coins to the rubble to ensure safe passage. One theory is that it evolved in eating and drinking establishments as a way to forestall envy, that when you're eating and drinking, you're having fun, and the people who are serving you are not.
Fast forward to the 19th century, when waiters who received a full wage went on strike demanding higher wages, they were replaced with women who employers could pay less. A decade later, there was the population of newly freed slaves. The idea from these restaurant owners was that they were giving the luxury or privilege of a white person's tips. That was, without a full wage.
Ironically, as tipping exploded in the United States, it became less common in Europe and was replaced with service charges.
While the first federal minimum wage law was passed in 1938, it wasn't until almost 3 decades later when the tip minimum wage was established. In 1991, the federal minimum wage for tipped employees was set at $2.13, which is what it remains at as of March 2023.
As far as I know, the United States is the only country that exempts tipped workers from having to receive the full minimum wage.
In 43 states, it is legal to pay tipped workers less than the standard minimum wage, because tips presumably make up that.
Actually, that's not true. I myself have not worked at those kind of jobs, but I've heard from other people, other friends and people like that work at those kind of jobs. And I'm from Israel, so like in Israel also, usually people who go to work at as being waiters in places, they tend to get I don't know, I think maybe below, maybe minimum, but like people who go to those kind of jobs, whether you know what? I won't say without knowing, because I've never been to those kind of work myself. I need to research it. But I think that like people who go to those kind of jobs, they go with the mindset of, I'm going to work at this job and I'm gonna get a lot of tips, therefore I will have a good salary. They don't go to this job and say, oh, this is the minimum, this is the wage that I am signing on. This is what I'm supposed to get paid at the end of the month. I might get paid a little bit more. Nah. They don't go like that, so.
A difference.
In recent years, you might have found yourself asking, do I tip this barista for pouring that hot coffee? What about when I'm going to a restaurant and picking up takeout? And how much do I tip that doorman, driver, or dog walker?
When those in the service industry were feeling the brunt during the coronavirus pandemic, consumers started tipping for things they never had before. And the percentage of remote transactions when tipping was an option in which the consumer tipped soared from about 46% before the pandemic to around 86% in January 2022.
That's crazy.
If people were willing to tip the person delivering food to their home 30%, why not ask if they'd like to tip when they come pick up?
During the pandemic, businesses who lost a lot of traditional customers and transactions were looking for alternative ways to make up that income. And if asking for tips was one way to do it, they were willing to try it.
And since then, that ask hasn't dissipated. Another reason consumers say they feel pressured to tip more? They're being asked to tip prior to service completion.
Asking for a tip beforehand is almost like a bribe.
It is.
Right? I'm afraid not to tip because, well, you do less good work.
Customers might not be concerned about the barista's perception.
And this is horrible. I can tell you that I went to Japan one time, and this is a country that I am planning on trying to live at the future. And one thing that I've learned in Japan very early on is that in Japan, the concept of tipping, in most places, maybe there are some special places which are exception of the rule, but the rule is, in most places, workers, baristas, waiters, they do not expect the customers to tip. This is not normal there. This is normal in the majority of the world, but not in Japan. Actually, you might run into a situation when you give somebody a tip, and then the person you give the tip to, he get panicked. Like the waiter, Imagine yourself like you're going to Japan right now and you're eating in a restaurant and you had a good time, and then you're putting a little bit of tip on top of the bill, and then you just leave. 1 second, like, or maybe a minute or two later, suddenly you hear the waiter shouting at you, "Hey, hey, 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 what happened? What happened?" "Oh, you forgot your money." We're like, "What? You forgot your money?" "No, this is for you." "No, no, I don't want it. Take it. This is yours." Like, in there, tipping it's weird. It's not something normal. Not only that it's weird, there are some employees who will actually feel embarrassed if you would offer them extra money. So, in my opinion, this is something good because if the whole concept of tipping is not part of the experience, it means that the workers go to their work expected to give the best service they can because they are getting paid by their employer to serve you. The thing is, and this is something that I really hate about the whole tipping culture, especially in places when you're supposed to sit for quite a long time around the table, like I don't know, like a restaurant that you have a couple of courses that you're supposed to sit at. Like imagine yourself that you're sitting next to a lot of other customers who are also sitting, and now the waiter need to pick who he is going to go and give the service to, and then he comes to you and you either don't want to pay tip or you want to pay like a very low tip, and suddenly the guy next to you is like, like the fat guy with the big top hat and the cigar at the mouth, and he's like pulling like a bunch of money, and he's saying, "Oh, here we go. Here's the tip." So now, after you both get your service, the waiter is going to fixate on the other guy that had given him a large chunk of money, and he's going to say, "Oh, this is a cash cow. I want to milk him from as much money as I can, so I will give him extra good service, and I'm gonna give the bare minimum to the other guy," you know? And I think this is horrible. Not only that it makes some of the employees to kiss the ass of the customers, and not kiss in a good way. You're not supposed to kiss ass of any customer. You're supposed to give equal service to all customers as long as they treat you like a human being, like a normal customer. Like, if you like go to a restaurant and like the customer is extremely like mentally, it's like crazy and behaving like very bad or rude. It's reasonable, and it's very understandable if you would want to get away from him and give him the bare minimum. But like if like the customer is being very nice to you, very kind, say thank you, struck up like he doesn't have to, but he can struck up a conversation with you. There is no reason you should give him different service because he paid the amount that he is supposed to be paying for the service, like all the other customers. So I think that tipping is not only bad. It's not only bad for the employees, because the employees are going the mindset that they are willing to get paid very low amount of money, but it's also bad for the customers themselves, because they are being forced to tip in order to get a decent experience from the waiter or from the other service giver. And it's got kind of like very common that like if somebody like you're going to a restaurant and saying, "Oh, damn, I can't tip the waiter, so I understand if he will treat me less good than the other customer who gave him a fat chunk of money." And this is wrong. You shouldn't go into a restaurant and thinking, "Oh, if I'm deciding not to tip, it's okay. I'm supposed to get a crappy service because I didn't want to tip." No, you're supposed to get the same service as the other guy with the cigar and the top hat. Yeah. So it's bad for both people, and it actually like give the manager, the people who own the restaurant, like the privilege to say, "Oh, you know what? We can keep treating them like trash. We can keep giving them those low salaries because, the customers will do the job for us. They will give the tip for them." and that will make them motivated to give good service. No, they shouldn't be motivated by the tips. They should be motivated by the salary they're getting in the end of the month. Yeah. So we live in a place. We live in a place that it's like obvious that tipping exists, but like it's not like that everywhere in the world. There are some countries when tipping is nothing. It's nothing that like people care about, and when you go to those places, you get the same service, whether you are a fat guy with a cigar and a top hat or a monocle, or you're like, you know, just a cheapskate or like somebody who cannot afford like to give. Sometimes you want to give and you can't, but anyway, you shouldn't even be pressured to give in the first place.
Of their tip before getting their latte, but what about the mechanic repairing your car? I don't know about you, but I'm certainly going to make sure to tip them well to ensure my safety.
That's fucked up.
Another reason consumers are tipping more: newer technologies. Kiosks and tablets with 3 large tipping suggestions that pop up on the screen in front of you. 3 options chosen by the business.
I have not yet been to the restaurant where they recommend 5, 10, or 15% for quick takeout. It normally always starts at 15 as a bare minimum, sometimes even starting at 20, 25, and up to 30.
According to a 2022 creditcards.com survey, 22% of respondents said when they're presented with various suggested tip amounts, they feel pressured to tip more than they normally would.
They use those options as an indication of kind of what the normative range is and feel compelled to tip within that range. So the more you ask, the more you get.
The 3 prominent companies with that trendy, sleek look are Square, Toast, and Clover. They launched a bit more than a decade ago to help businesses run smarter, faster, and easier, all in one point of sale or POS systems. In some cases, fewer fees so it's less of a burden to accept multiple credit cards, no long-term contracts, and multiple other useful tools including inventory and employee management.
They got credit card processing into the hands of individuals and very small merchants. Square did a great job. It's been a tremendous growth story. That's half of the business today.
Do you think these companies are responsible for this turn of events that we've seen with tipping?
I would say they could take some of the credit for helping restaurants gather more tips.
Robert Sanchez manages Eli's Essentials in New York City. One of the business's locations uses Toast, while the other uses this. He says the storefront that uses Toast sees more and higher tips.
The Clover, Square, and Toast terminals to a consumer are very easy to use. Big buttons, big areas to sign the tip, an easy way to tip a different amount if you don't like the starting at 20% option. There are others that do it, they're just not as cool looking.
Oh, wait a second. Hold up. Let me go back a little bit. Did you notice that? Were my eyes deceiving me?
Manages Eli's Essentials in New York City. One of the business's locations uses Toast, while the other...
Oh, okay. Well, in here there is a no tip option. I thought that I saw one of them that had no tip option, like didn't have this kind of button.
This. He says the storefront that uses Toast...
Oh, okay, here you go. 5, 10, 15, and no. Okay, there is a no option. I was scared there will be no and no options.
Robert Sanchez manages Eli's Essentials in New York City. One of the business's locations uses Toast, while the other uses this. He says the storefront that uses Toast sees more and higher tips.
The Clover, Square, and Toast terminals to a consumer are very easy to use. Big buttons, big areas to sign the tip, an easy way to tip a different amount if you don't like the starting at 20% option. There are others that do it, they're just not as cool looking.
We've come a long way from being able to just throw your spare change into the jar by the cash register.
The new tablets have turned what used to be a sin of omission, I simply didn't put money into the tip jar, into a sin of commission. I have to hit a button and say no tip. I have to actively choose not to tip. Whereas before, not tipping was a kind of a passive thing.
This is also like psychologically, that's like a way that you like have to like when you have to take an action, it automatically give you like a sense of like, I did this. I don't know how to explain this, but when you feel like you have decided to do something, it takes mental energy for you to do so. So you feel responsibility. And in this case, by pressing the no tip option, you feel a sense of shame. And it adds up, especially if you're paying like beyond the counter and there are a lot of customers behind you who are also looking at you and seeing that you decided to press the no tip option. This is horrible.
Glancing at the tip jar could have also been a way to get a sense of how many others are tipping on that service and maybe even how much money. Meanwhile, not only can the tipping options be customized, but the tipping feature can be disabled as well. So it's the merchant's choice to ask or not to ask for tips.
From the business side, it makes employees want to perform better and do a better job.
It's seriously significant. It really pays for the software. You'd be a foolish business owner not to install it based on what the numbers display. Even a mammoth company as large as Starbucks has decided that they need to sink or swim, and the best way for them to do that is to offer the tip screen.
Starbucks rolled out the tipping feature in stores in September 2022.
It's one thing to have a happy staff. It's another thing to have customers that are feeling resentful. I think it's a calculus that all business owners really need to make.
Do you think that they're somewhat going to start seeing that they're getting lower tips because people are paying so many services, or they're resentful of the act of tipping in general?
I think that's a very real danger of servers in a sit-down restaurant. They were greatly affected during and immediately post-pandemic by restaurants doing all sorts of fees. Their tips were actually going down because consumers were saying, well, if I'm paying for the health insurance and I'm paying for inflation and I'm paying for this and I'm paying for that, enough is enough. The more you levy these line items onto consumers, guess who's being penalized? It's the one area that's still quasi-discretionary, which is the tip.
I went door to door talking with waitresses, bartenders, and baristas, and while they wanted to remain anonymous, they told me it's happening already. With inflation and being prompted for tips left and right, they say customers have already started to tip less and sometimes not at all.
A 2022 study found that 17% of Americans are tipping less because of inflation. However, 10% report tipping more. At the same time, more than half of Americans, or 60%, want to do away with tipping entirely. The extent of pandemic-influenced generosity has also gone down. 43% of consumers typically tipped servers 20% or more in 2022, compared to 56% of consumers in 2021. Meanwhile, the average tip for full-service restaurants has gone down only slightly during the same time period. According to Toast, 19.6% in the fourth quarter of 2022, compared to 19.8% in 2021. However, according to surveys conducted in those same years, respondents said they're tipping higher percentages, 21.2% and 18.9% respectively.
It can genuinely hurt the people who truly rely on gratuities for their livelihood. I firmly believe that the tipping invasion we are experiencing right now, I think it's a net negative for society.
It is.
And with that tablet at just about every counter, no matter where you go, the question is, where's the tipping point? I'm wondering how long before I'm tipping my doctor after an annual physical.
Oh my God, would you imagine that? Would you imagine going to the doctor and having to tip him? This is weird. Even imagining it's weird, but it's possible. It might be. It might happen.
If you want to seem especially generous after an exceptional meal, you might decide to go big and tip 30%. But
by the way, I wanted to tell you about a story about an experience that I actually had one time when I there was a period of my life that I used to live alone, and during that time I used to work until very late hours. So I would come back from work and I would be extremely tired, and I didn't know how to cook stuff, so I would order a lot of stuff. I was very close to some nice restaurants and stuff. So anyway, one time I've ordered a big big meal. I've ordered myself some good sushi. All right. Now, I don't know about your country, but in Israel, sushi is extremely expensive. So anyway, I've ordered the sushi, and usually it takes like an hour, give or take, until the sushi arrives at my place. So when the sushi arrived, yeah, you hear a knock on the door. You go when you open the door, and they say, "Here you go." By the way, I don't like physical money. I already paid in advance using credit. So I bought the meal, I paid, and when you buy sushi, you pay. Oh my god, it costs too much money. Anyway, so I bought myself some sushi, and then the delivery guys looks at me when he hands me the bag, and he says to me, okay, sir, just make sure that you have everything in here, and you are being and you are feeling satisfied that I didn't forget anything. Now, he said that after I was like taking the food, and I was like telling him with a big smile on my face, I'm saying, "Oh, thank you very much." I'm taking the bag, and I'm planning like to turn around and to get back to my place to close the door, and then he like tell me, "Oh, just make sure that everything is all right and you're satisfied that I didn't forget anything. Are all of the sauces, is everything there?" So the reason they are doing this is that they are trying to give you a couple more, like a minute or two more. You will have to evaluate how good the service is, and you will get to the point that you will think, "Oh, you know what? He did a good service. It's time for me to tip him." Now, when I was smaller, I used to be a good boy, and I followed the trend, and I tipped like everybody else. But I got to a certain point that I said, "Fuck it, I don't wanna tip. Why do I need to tip?" In my work, I used to work, back then as a programmer. But it's not only programmer, and I wasn't like making like ton of money. I was a very low level, like just starting out kind of programmer without a degree. But like it doesn't matter what type of work you're doing. It can be any other type of work. But like I got my, what did I wanted to say? I forgot. So like the majority of the work out there that are not like the type of works that you do like restaurant waiters or stuff like that, majority of the work you do not get tips. So I was going, you know what? This is the owner's fault. The owner should pay them properly so they won't rely on this kind of stuff. I don't want to tip. I am paying the full amount that he cost. And believe me, it's not cheap. So anyway, I decided that day I am not going to tip. And I was very awkward, and I felt a little bit scared. What would happen if I would try not to tip? So anyway, so he said, getting back to the story, so he said to me, "Check that everything is okay." I say, "Oh yes, everything is lovely. Thank you very much." And I'm like looking at him with a big smile. Have a lovely rest of the night. And then he looks at me, and he looks at the box, and he looks at me, and he looks at the box. Then he say, "What?" I say, "What? What happened? You're not going to tip me?" I said, "What? You're not going to give me any tip, huh?" I said, sorry? He said, "Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, it's fine. No problem. You don't want a tip? All right. No problem." Then he turned around, and he take the knob of the door, and he go, "Brah!" And he actually like, fucking like like he almost broke like my door because of how he knocked the door like very like with a lot of power. And I was, what the fuck did just happen now? Like he was like 100% so confident that, oh, he's going to get that tip from me, and when he didn't, he went berserk. He was like extremely angry. Now this is one thing to get angry for not getting tip, but it's a completely different thing to take the knob of the door of my apartment and to fucking like close it with force. Like, who are you? Who do you think you are? It's not your fucking house. So anyway, this was a very very awkward experience, and that didn't happen to me like 99% of the time. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to me like one or two or three times from like couple of tens of times that I've ordered stuff from restaurant. Then the waiter the waiter, the delivery man actually got like visually, like you can behave like frustrated as if he is entitled to get tip out of me. And I can tell you that was a very disgusting experience for me as a customer. Like, it's okay that you are sad that you haven't got a tip, but I'm not entitled to give you a tip. You chose to believe it. You did your job. I did my job. That's it. So anyway, when I had those kind of experiences, that's kind of solidified my mind just how socially expected and how society doesn't even question usually the fact that we actually always give extra money just because we are being pressed on doing so. So yeah, not very fun. Not very fun experience. Okay.
It's a cycle. As more people seeking to make a good impression then up their tips to 30%, maybe even 35%, what becomes a generous tip?
I have to believe tips are going to go up from where they are today. But I also think there's got to be a logical ceiling somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
Oh, here's a nice video, but I'm not gonna watch it right now. But it's a very curious one. Okay, so anyway, I think that after that kind of very heavy, kind of stuff, I think maybe something a little bit more easy will be nice. There is a guy on YouTube. I don't know if anybody knows him, but I really, really adore him. In my opinion, he is one of the most talented RuneScape video creators I know out there, and he always makes me laugh. Like, RuneScape is a childhood game of mine, and I've spent countless hours. I used to play since RuneScape 2 days when I was like in elementary school with all my class. And now, like, a lot of RuneScape players are adults, and they still play on this game. So it's a very different experience, and yeah. Anyway, he makes super funny and super, like, I don't know, sometimes even thought-provoking videos about RuneScape. So he made a video that was very interesting to me. RuneScape, the MMO that teaches life lessons. Let's go.
Just let me double your money real quick.
Like I said, dude, we're gonna do 500K in one trade, and then after I know you're legit and you're serious about this whole thing, then we can start doing the millions in 2 trades.
You promise?
Yes, of course. Look, there's just a lot of scammers out there, so I gotta know that you're the real deal.
Okay, fine. See?
Wow, you really are legit. That was the easiest 500K of my life.
All I've ever been is legit.
Thank you.
Now let's turn that 5 million gold into 10 million gold. I'll hold on to all of it for just a sec, but then I'll hand you over 10 million and it'll be your favorite.
Thank you. Your report has been received.
Nice. Nice. That's how you do it, bitch. That's how you do it. Oh, Jimmy.
Chances are you've had a life lesson at some point through a super impactful experience that you carry with you at all times. It might have shaped how you feel about people, love, could be anything. If you played RuneScape, chances are you had one of your life lessons come from right here. Or maybe here. Perhaps here. Here, maybe. Even here. The social side of RuneScape has let players learn the hard way in the easiest way possible.
I'll tell you something, and this is very funny because this is quite, like, this is real. They're like, it sounds like a joke, but actually, this is real. I think that, like, RuneScape has such a big economy, and I don't know about like the old times, but I'm talking like playing RuneScape as an adult. The economy is very, very player driven, and that's a lovely way to learn how to manage money, to do trades. Like, don't quote me on this. I'm not a trader nor a financial advisor, but I learned about managing money and resources, and swapping stuff using RuneScape. And most of the time, players behave like how they would behave with real life items sometimes in the game. So it's a good lesson.
Giving you real-world experience without the real-world experience. Interact with enough players, and you'll have a good idea about how society functions. Terribly. Life lessons can stem from anywhere on this map, and they can present themselves in a split second or over the course of many years. But I did my best to boil it all down into 3 crucial life lessons that RuneScape teaches its players. So let's just jump into it. Lesson 1. People like money more than they like you. For example, people generally don't like advertisements.
This is the truth of life.
There's no shortage of criticisms when it comes to ads. The thing is, ads generate money for all parties involved. And because of how effective they are at sustaining jobs and growing companies, your general feelings about ads themselves aren't really a part of the equation when it comes to where an ad is placed. Look at these. These are Raycon everyday earbuds. You know who co-founded Raycon? Ray J. And women love Ray J. He's probably gotten a girl or two before. And he's literally Ray J, so he knows what premium quality sound is. The everyday earbuds look good in my ear, and they feel good too. Whether I'm hanging out with the president.
Are those Raycons? I gotta give myself a pair.
Why don't you get yourself a pair 15% off, Mr. President? Does that sound good?
I think I'll give myself a pair, Jim. Thank you.
Or acting on set of a 90s sitcom.
Rocking the Raycons, huh? Those look good, Jim. Keep wearing them, I think.
I've got 8 hours of playtime with no strings attached. And by strings, I mean wires. We got none of those going on here. You wouldn't even know they're in my ear, probably. They've got the stuff you love, like noise isolation and awareness mode, but at half the price of their competitors. Amazing. If you're an everyday music guy, get yourself a pair of Raycon everyday earbuds by clicking the link in the description, or go to buyraycon.com/J1MMY to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. So like I was saying, people like money more than they like you. Look, I'm sorry, not all of you learned this life lesson by playing RuneScape. I had to teach you just now. We're all in this together now. This lesson has to come before any of the other ones, because not only is it the most shared and often the first lesson most players learn, but it's also the root of most life lessons that come from this game. Money comes full circle. When a society becomes advanced enough, they inevitably develop a currency of some sort. But currency has the tendency to send the human brain back to primal form, whether you've got too much of it or too little of it. Money makes people foam at the mouth and make animal noises, the scary kind. And this concept comes in many forms on RuneScape. Mine was a classic trick, one that most of the internet has heard of. I was in 3rd grade. I had already found myself addicted and immersed inside this world. I didn't even know that was possible with a video game. And with all the excitement, I decided to set my very first goal. Get a full set of mithril armor. The beautiful...
Oh my god, mithril armor. My god. I remember back in my day, when I used to play with my friends. Back then, my English was not like fluent, so I used to search for guides on the internet to translate stuff to English for me, so I'll be able to understand stuff. But this is another point. I think many people who live in like in countries where they're like many people who live in countries that their native language is not English, and they used to play MMO since they were quite small, tend to be fluent in English. And this includes me. The amount of English that I have learned from playing RuneScape, dude, I should pay, like people should pay extra money. Instead of going to an English teacher, go play RuneScape. Like, I mean, not everybody. I don't know why some people don't. Like, some people do not like get good at languages from playing games, but the majority of people that I have knew, especially if you were to talk with gamers who are quite serious gamers in Israel, the majority of them are relatively fluent in English, at least when it comes to understanding. Maybe talking less, but like reading, writing, understanding spoken language, they tend to be quite fluent. And it's not from going to school, and it's not from doing grammar works, it's from playing fucking video games. So, for all the people who told me as a kid that I'm wasting my time playing video games. Video games can be very, very good educational tools. Like in the end, when it comes to learning a language, I know that I'm getting off topic, I'm sorry, but when it comes to learning languages, there are like a lot of people who like debate what is the best way to learn languages, but I think that one of the very famous method that is talked about recently, I forgot what is the name of the guy, I think he is a linguist or something like that, who talked about that constant input, like getting a lot of input is important. And like, what other better way to get input than to play an MMO, which is the type of game that like you play for 5-6, well, now as an adult I don't have so much free time, but usually people play for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours after they finish school. Like, I used to run away back from school just to get the computer and be able to, like, you know, launch RuneScape and log in with all my friends. So like, the amount of hours you spend in this virtual world, that's the best place to experience English. Anyway, I really drifted away from the subject, but what I wanted to say is that, yeah, back in my day, especially during the days of RuneScape 2, before the Grand Exchange, if anybody remembers the Grand Exchange, getting Mithril was pretty damn hard. So it was kind of pricey, especially if the only method you knew for getting money was cutting trees, Yao trees, or other types of trees. I forgot the name of them. It's been a while. Oh man, yeah, those were the days.
Blue and not purple, tier 20 armor. And this was during an era where there were no handouts. You couldn't spawn in Lumbridge as a new player and someone comes and gives you 100k. That didn't happen. I mean, the age demographic was like 9 to 16. There's not a lot of 9 to 16-year-olds wanting to be generous. It's like the last thing on their mind. Nor was there many people you could go up to and ask for advice worth giving, because no one knew anything about the game back then. Going for a full set of mithril armor, being brand new at the game, and having a dumb child brain, that's a real grind. And after many days of neglecting any sort of responsibilities that a 9-year-old may have, like going to bed on time, I had finally got my full set of mithril armor, and I wore it proudly. I looked good, I think. But one day, in front of a very busy Lumbridge castle, a man wearing a full set of rune, red boots and gloves, a dragon longsword, and a cape I had never seen before, came up to me and said,
"Hey, I just got 88 crafting. Want me to put a gold trim on your armor?"
Now, when you're 9 years old, hopefully social interactions have never had malicious intent behind them. That was my case. Pretty normal, I'd say. Wasn't associated with too many sketchballs. So my knowledge of lying at the time was pretty much just denial. Did you throw that pencil? No, there it was. I lied. I didn't know there were more layers to lying. And at 9 years old, everything in the world is completely free. Net worth of $0, zero contribution to society. I simply just existed and got things handed to me, just costing my parents money. Kids suck. I suck.
Well, this is like the meaning of being a kid. You just exist and getting paid for it. Yeah, that happens until you become an adult. Then people tell you that if you don't help them, they will, they will kick you out of the house, Sad reality. Anyway, enjoy being kids. It won't last forever.
Wow, look at that! Another free thing being offered to me. The only way that anything's ever been offered to me. Of course I wanted him to put the gold trim on my armor, whatever that meant. So I handed this knight in shining armor my full mithril set and let him do what those with 88 crafting do.
Oh no. Oh
walk
no!
away. That's what they do to trim armor. I vividly remember just kind of watching him stroll out of the courtyard, not making any attempt to go after him, beg for my stuff back. I just kind of sat there. The reality of the situation hit me almost immediately. I understood I was not going to get my armor back. That did not take more than a second to process. It was just the fact that that could actually happen. It happened to me as a person. I got scammed for the very first time in my life. I wouldn't form a life lesson from that situation for many years. In his mind, I was processed as not a human sitting at a computer enjoying themselves, immersed in the same world of gaming that he was, but processed as a set of mithril armor he could potentially sell for 8K. That's all I was to him. That guy liked money a whole
That's all I was for him, just 8K.
lot more than he liked me, and that's sad for me. And similar situations obviously transcend into different MMOs. If a game has a currency in it and players are able to trade between each other, chances are you've ran into scammers multiple times, maybe even fell for one or two of them. But RuneScape just has so many outlets for this lesson that it's almost impossible to avoid being taught it. The more I played, the more genres of money criminals I discovered. Trade-based scams like doubling money, trimming...
Let's see, doubling money, gem cutting, trust game, trimming armor, wild, wieldy teleport. What do you mean wieldy teleport? 10% inventory, need a bond. Oh, need a bond is quite a new one. Bond did not exist back when I was a kid. Quick remove a similar item, fake buyer, house kick. Oh my god. Well, you need to you need to be a member in order to be kicked from the house. Yeah.
Armor, removing items from the trade screen. The next level from scamming is luring, using intense social engineering to convince a player to take all of their...
Oh my god, I think this thing happened to almost every RuneScape player in existence. Even I once, I think, got lured into PK when I was small. Yeah, I don't remember though, because I was super small when it happened. So maybe my brain is trying to erase this memory as a way of like not being, I don't know. Anyway.
Items and worth into a dangerous area where usually a group of hoodlums are waiting to kill that player. And the more GP you have, the more people are trying to get that GP you have. People want your gold so freaking bad, dude. People at the Grand Exchange want it. The noob wants it. The fucking big guys with way bigger banks also still want it for some reason, dude. Everything's so crazy here. Everyone wants your gold. Hide your fucking gold, put it in the bank, and log out. Log out of the game. It's too stressful. Oh, man. Oh, thank God. But even when you log out, people still want your gold. You open your email, fake messages from Jagex, billing issues, a forum post you need to look at. You know what? Let's close out an email. We don't need that. Watch someone else play RuneScape. Oh my god, look at the top of the RuneScape page. It's a fake live stream pretending to be one of my favorite streamers. And there's just links to hack me there. Because everybody just wants your fucking gold. Yeah, being rich on RuneScape's stressful, I bet. And people still fall for fishes. That's with a PH. Every day, dude. Just clicking on shit that looks official or enticing. I'm pretty sure I've seen a crackdown on it recently, but there were a ton of fake RuneLite clients that do a damn good job disguising themselves as the real client. And as soon as the player launches it, suddenly some dude has grabbed their IP, logged their account information, took screenshots of their bank PIN. It's essentially they are now the second owner of your account. And if you don't realize it's through your RuneLite client, even changing your password and email just won't matter, because as soon as you log in again, you're still on their client. How am I getting hacked, Jagex? What's wrong with you? Get a new security system, Jagex. This is your fault. I read good. Do you guys know that capitalization still doesn't matter for RuneScape logins? I went like a decade like capitalizing letters as I typed it in to log in, and I never knew it just didn't matter once and still wouldn't. Yeah, there's some security problems probably. Oh, well, I'm going on a tangent. I need to chill out, dude. And of course, with all these money things, you can't forget about gambling. Oh boy, do I have stories about gambling. 10 years ago, as a freshman in high school, Jesus Christ, I found myself diving headfirst into the world of gambling with all the flower games going on. That's when I experienced the other side of this lesson, the power-hungry, primal, foaming mouth side. In June 2012, I had 30 million GP to my name that I had accumulated over many years of skilling and terrible money-making methods, and then I became a gambling host. Fast forward a month later, and I had a purple party hat. A real one. The one that's worth like $100 or something in RuneScape 3. I had one on my head at one point, and it felt good. During my gambling host days, never once did I scam anybody. Being a gambling host was already pushing my own boundaries. I spent a lot of my allotted bad boy points on that. I didn't have many left. I couldn't afford to put more in scamming. I'd be way out of bad boy points. What if I wanted to try a beer or something? You didn't need to scam anybody as a gambling host, because you're playing with house odds. You win. But I almost scammed somebody, and that's where my life lesson came in. The very last flower game I played as a host, I was beat by the guy making the bet. It was gonna completely clean me. I was about to have 0 GP, but nobody was watching us. It was just me and him, so I logged out. And for the first time, I was about to scam somebody, and it was for a lot of gold, like hundreds of millions. But I sat there for 5 minutes just staring at the login screen. I had gone quite literally forever without ever scamming somebody or having intent to do so. And there I was, logged out. At that point, scamming somebody. I thought about what I was doing. I thought about the guy who initially trusted me to place the bet, and eventually I did what the primal cavemen couldn't. I logged back in, gave the dude his winnings, apologized, took everything else out of my bank, gave it all away, and proceeded to log out for about a year until Old School came out when I could start fresh. I took away a few life lessons reflecting on my entire time as a host and the people I met and the situations I encountered. Gambling is just toxic for the brain. I learned what money can make you feel, what it can make you do. Even though it wasn't in the real world, I felt the sense of being a rich guy, and I was simply not mature enough to handle being there. I was like 14, not old enough to say the least to handle the responsibility of money, or other people's money also. And I had a lot of friends back then that were way too deep to control their love for RuneScape Gold, mostly the guys who were selling it for real money. And the deepest stem of this life lesson is the one that absolutely, including myself, affects people the most: trust. And unfortunately, with the barrier of the internet separating people's relationships, kind of serves as the fastest getaway car imaginable if somebody chooses to fuck someone else over. When it comes to the opposite of a life lesson, getting away with something like breaking someone's trust and not having to deal with any form of consequence is dangerous. Trust is very important to literally everybody. Like, watch a mafia movie, maybe. But here's the last story. During my gambling escapade, my bank was peaking around 8 billion GP, which in 2012, holy shit. I had a friend that I had met way before becoming a gambling host, and he also became a gambling host. We were a part of the same circle of friends. We were all in TeamSpeak calls every day, way before this disc call.
Dude, you know that this is old times when people talk about TeamSpeak.
Or whatever you kids are using nowadays. He was someone I considered a very good friend. He had private messaged me in-game, asking if I could do a trust trade for a video he was making promoting our gambling clan, or something stupid like that, I don't know. And I had trusted him with billions in the past, so I didn't think anything of it. This 8 billion GP I spoke of came in the form of a party hat set. So really, without hesitation, I traded him and handed over every single party hat except for the blue one. After I traded it over, there was a very, very long pause, and I can only imagine that this was a lot more.
Dude, I believe that in the long pause, the other person was like going like crazy. Oh my fucking god, I made it! I actually made it! He didn't give me all of his fucking money, I'm rich! Like, he was probably like, I don't know, like dancing like crazy. That's why he couldn't like touch his keyboard.
More intense than what I had experienced, because he knew me personally. So he stood there holding my 5 to 6 billion RuneScape gold. I spammed trade on him, waiting for him to respond, just kind of panicking a little bit. He could sell it for, I don't know, $1,500, or he could keep a friendship. My heart continued to race, just spamming the trade button, hoping that I would see that trade screen open up and end this anxiety attack. But people like money a lot more than they like you. Lesson 2. People are smarter than you. A lot of players' translation of this is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, which is a very important one to learn. It could not be more true, but that phrase comes from the fact—
Dude, that's a phrase that I learned very early in my life, and you know, I think that as people, like, I grew up with the internet since I was like a small child, you know? So I think that if you spend decent amount of hours using the internet since you were little, you probably got scammed or something bad happened that you didn't think will happen. So like, I learned very early on in my life that if somebody, I don't know, is nice to me on the internet, first thing that I need to think about is, what is the motive behind this person? Why is he so smiley and so friendly? Like, don't get me wrong. There are nice people. There are people who want to become friends with you, but usually people don't come to you and say, "Hey, how are you doing this lovely afternoon? Want to hang out together?" No, there must be something going on with that person. So yeah, you should always, you know, think more deeply about stuff like that.
That somebody is trying to outsmart you. Sometimes it happens. As much as we don't like telling ourselves this, me, you, we will simply never be the smartest people on Earth. I mean, you're watching a video on life lessons learned from a medieval clicking simulator, so, I mean, you're already opted out of this, and I'm the one making it, so there's that. Every single evil plan that's ever been drawn up relies on being smarter than the person it's up against. And if you've ever fallen for any form of scam, the evil plan worked. You've been outsmarted. You've been checkmated. You took an L. And the reason we don't ever think about it like that is because the person who outsmarted us is a piece of shit doing piece of shit things. And the thought of a piece of shit being smarter than us sucks a lot. We're the good guys. No one's smarter than us. But that's why so many big life lessons come from being scammed. We don't ever want to experience being outsmarted by a bad person ever again. In RuneScape, luring is probably the clearest example for this. And luring is just brutal. Because first they manipulate you, and then they fucking kill you.
Ooh.
To take your money. You have to watch your character fall to its death for 3 whole seconds, which is just enough time to take it all in. Your health bar completely red, your inventory and all the things that are about to disappear right before your eyes, the shitty things that the shitty lures are saying to you as you die. 3 seconds of things to bring 7 to 10 days of
You died.
absolute misery. Going back to the if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is thing, which again, very valid and important lesson to know. There's always going to be something, no matter how cautious you are, that has potential to get you. Lurers and scammers know that people are cautious. Putting 10K on the ground 8 squares into the wilderness is no longer an effective way to lure people. Ooh, piece of candy methods aren't too effective in 2023. Now it's blatantly obvious we shouldn't go for that pile of cash in the wilderness. Caution really is no longer an obstacle for lurers. Their plans usually rely on you being cautious. All they're truly wanting is your participation. They've thought of a plan A, B, and C. If you try to anti-scam or anti-lure, they want more than anything for you to think you can outsmart them by participating in their scam. So I guess side note, when it comes to RuneScape, if you are being approached and it's obviously a lure, simply do not participate. I promise you, they only want that. That's all it takes. Just ignore them, report them, and go along with your day. I know I've gone in a lot of different directions here, so where does this fit into real life scenarios? There's something I almost forgot about. Merch clans. Back in the day, there were merch clans ran by extremely rich players.
NFT.
Notably, players like Chessy018 and Smoking Mills. They would essentially recruit as many players as possible to buy an item in bulk, to raise the demand extremely high while they hold the entire supply of that item. Let's say the item of the week is an Abyssal Whip. The rich players start out by buying as many whips as they can, and then they advertise to everybody in their clan chat to go buy Abyssal Whips. You're gonna profit so much, we're gonna hold all the Abyssal Whips, everyone's gonna make so much money, it's gonna be great. So for 5 to 7 days, everybody's buying all of these whips. Price of a whip just skyrockets over the course of the week, and then when the sweet spot is hit, the rich players will dump everything they have, maximizing their own profits. and then they tell everybody they did it. Suddenly, everybody is trying to rush to the Grand Exchange and dump the Abyssal Whips as the price plummets, and they're fighting and struggling to sell off as many as they bought so that they make any sort of profit and they don't lose their entire investment. But let's say you had, I don't know, school, work, a day at the park. I don't know. You weren't online when they announced they were dumping the entire supply. Well, congratulations. Your whip's worth fucking nothing. A small amount of winners making a shit ton of money at the expense of a whole lot of average players losing money. Now, if this sounds a little familiar to you, you might recognize something like this happening pretty recently in the real world. You might have heard of them with NFTs. Now, as someone who lost about 75% of their entire bank with a singular Chessie 018 merch investment, I got to sit back and watch the show as everybody else experienced this exact thing with real money. Now, did people make money with NFTs? Yeah, sure. Some people made a lot of money, but did people lose money? Just about everyone, yeah. So a year from now, when NFTs are probably gonna try and make a comeback with all the crypto fanatics advertising their fucking pixelated cat collection that was randomly generated and want you to buy one before you can even see what it is, but it's super hype, so you gotta have one so you can make money because everyone's just gonna sell them anyway. Just know that they think they're smarter than you, and they sure as fuck like money a whole lot more than they like you. Lesson 3. The world's mine oyster, which I, with sword, will open. The first 2 lessons alone make RuneScape sound like a machine that's constantly building criminals, but fast forward now to the old school RuneScape days, the lessons that we see emerging are more on the positive side. The world is your oyster. A saying that for nearly all my life pissed me off because it made no sense, and I don't understand why people said it. It meant nothing to me. You are in a position to not only pursue opportunities that are thrown at you, but also create them. I think that's what it means. It feels like it's just a quote used by motivational speakers when they need something to lean on when they can't answer a question having to do with direction in life. But I have a better understanding of that quote because of this world right here and all the opportunities that thing brings. The world of Gillinor became an all-in-one resource and tool. You have the game as it is, just completionist-based goals like maxing skills, getting a quest cape, doing the achievement diaries. Those are all there for you to do.
Hell yeah, RuneScape is a lesson on patience, especially if you're like a little kid. Like, I don't know. Like, I think maybe RuneScape is one of the grindiest games that ever exists. The amount of hours you need to put into one skill in order to max it. Oh my god, you need to be extremely dedicated. It's even bordering on the, you know? Well, I better not say it, but I think you can guess what I'm trying to say. But yeah, actually, I was one of those who actually managed to max, but only as an adult. When I was a child, I did not have this much discipline in order to max. Funnily enough, when I became an adult and I decided to play the game, it was a completely different playing field.
That let you explore new goals you never have before. I mean, this is the game that taught a lot of people about setting milestones and taking one step at a time. Players started taking trading away and playing the game as if it was single player with the Iron Man mode, which created subcategories with hardcore permadeath accounts and Ultimate Iron Men, which can't use a bank at all and can only use their 28 inventory slots. And players got even crazier and created subcategories of those, like land boundaries and mechanics restrictions. RuneScape has just been serving as a playground for players' ideas. To this day, new accounts and new game modes are being introduced. I thought the ideas would have ran out years ago, but people are too creative apparently. We're all just still here doing more things. RuneScape players just can't be stopped. Even Jagex joined in the creativity. Idle made a prop hunt and whatever stupid game modes he's making all the time, but we see all this creativity happening. And if you take a step back and you look at this world map, it's kind of the same concept. The foundation of this map has always been the same. The Earth still has a crust and like lava underneath whatever the fuck is down there. I mean, this one is way bigger, way more skills to train, harder to train them, longer grinds for your goals. The world is just scary because there's so many directions you can take. Like, what do you do? Look at all, I'm not gonna go to all those places. There's a lot of places and I don't know what to do. It's important to remind yourself that we all started here. And obviously everyone's played this game a different amount, I don't know if you even have played this game. Different ways to go, different things to accomplish, goals to shoot for. We got to prove that we have what it takes to start with bare minimum, zero knowledge, and find our way. We learned some social skills. We learned about money and how easy it is to lose it. We learned if you lose the money, you can always rebuild it back, no matter how down bad you are. We learned what we'd like to do and enjoy doing, what we hate to do, how to get through it. We have to do it anyway. No matter what your goal is, with enough hard work and patience, you'll eventually get there. Don't be a bitch. Take it at your own pace. You've got time. Chill out. You'll be fine. But anyway, the world is referred to as an oyster because apparently oysters are really hard to break open. Hence why the quote comes from a dude talking about opening one with a sword. This line was funny to people back then, apparently. Inside the oyster is a pearl, and that pearl stands for something different for everybody. Whatever you're trying to go for. I don't know. That's my best interpretation of it, dude. I don't know. It's a stupid quote. I still don't like it. I think we could come up with something better. The world is full of opportunity, and if you don't think there's opportunity there, then create your own. Someone wanted to fly, so they built a fucking plane. That's the saying now. I've decided. So go. Get after it. Do it. Create it. Create a way to create it. Or you can just start scamming people. If that's, I mean, that's your opportunity. Maybe that's the lesson you're getting from RuneScape. Old school RuneScape is just proof that even in a world that's been established for so long, there's always a unique way to approach shit. I guess I think about this concept a lot, this game teaching life lessons, because that's pretty crazy to think about. I feel very lucky that I found RuneScape growing up and let it teach me the lessons it did, because I feel like some of the simulated shitty things that happened to me in this game prevented some way shittier things from happening to me in real life. I am where I am today because of this game in multiple ways, I'd say. What's up? It's me, RuneScape Job Guy. You know, when I was growing up and the kids around me were making fun of me for playing RuneScape, which did happen. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. Oops, the RuneScape nerds know more than you by accident. And they didn't get to learn the life lessons that we did. And honestly, I wish them and their 3D AI-generated cat wearing a hoodie NFT that no one will ever have a desire to purchase ever again. Nothing but the best. Thanks, RuneScape. Yeah, you've been a pretty good mentor over the years. Maybe that's why none of us can stop playing. We know it's bad for us. Before I head out, I just want to shout out my second channel again. I just recently posted a video playing Dark and Darker with Settled in 8 Sat. I was posting non-RuneScape videos here for a while, but I kind of decided to start doing it there. Gonna have just as much effort put into them, so go check it out. It's a lot of fun. I'm always gonna make those videos in a way where you don't need to understand the game to enjoy them, so go watch that. It'd mean a lot to me. But that's all I've got. See you soon.
Yeah, I'm dope, right?
Yeah.
Wow, you look dope.
You know you can take the mask off at dinner, right?
How are you gonna eat with that on?
When they get you to the table, you don't have to keep the mask on.
What's your strength potion you got, Jim?
I think it's an invisibility potion.
Oh, okay.
I just...
Oh
God! What the fuck? Oh my God!
You died to wall spikes, Jim.
What?
Fucking died to the agility pyramid. How do you feel?
Oh man. Oh man, this game looks so damn fun. Alrighty. Alrighty. So let's go to an interesting video I'm curious about. Are MMOs actually bad for you? As a guy who plays a lot of MMOs, not a lot of MMOs, but put a lot of time into some MMOs, I'll say it like that, I wonder. Let's go.
RPG genre certainly attracts some weird and wonderful. The MMORPG genre certainly attracts some weird and wonderful people from many different backgrounds, but generally MMOs have been more associated with nerd culture than other gaming genres over the past 20 years. I remember back in high school, all the kids that played RuneScape would hang out together, and all the kids that played WoW would also hang out together. These groups were seen as the nerds, whilst all the cool kids were playing Halo 3 or Call of Duty. I remember seeing documentaries on TV about how addictive...
I don't know, like in my school, I don't think that playing games was considered not cool. Well, yeah, you know what? Maybe MMOs were considered nerdier, but I remember that even kids who were not considered nerds were playing RuneScape.
World of Warcraft was, and hearing stories about people becoming so obsessed with the game that they died from playing it too long, or they'd pee in bottles to avoid going to the toilet just so they could keep playing the game. Naturally, after hearing these fierce stories in the news as a teenager, it just made me think, this game must be really fucking good if it's having that effect on people. And thus my journey down the MMO rabbit hole began. 18 years later, here I am covering MMORPGs for a living. I've gone through multiple phases where MMOs have either had a severely negative impact on my life and an incredibly positive impact. So in this video we're going to talk about both the good and the bad about being an MMORPG player, ultimately ending in my opinion about the title of this video. Are MMORPGs actually bad for you? But first, sponsor. Many MMO players find it easier to level up in-game rather than real life, but with a pair of Raycon everyday earbuds, you can start to build
Raycon again, here we go again.
Top-tier audio quality to ease your mind and improve focus. You've got a 6-hour train journey across the country and need to keep your mind occupied? Listen to some podcasts with your Raycons. You want to level up your stamina stats IRL but you find cardio boring? Whip out your Raycons, put on some tunes, and get running. And for me personally, I use my Raycons in the gym pretty much every day to avoid some of the terrible music that gets played on repeat, which would distract me from gaining that sweet, sweet strength XP. So why should you use Raycons over other wireless earbuds? Well, they're half the price of other brands with premium quality, they come with noise isolation, they're water and sweat resistant which makes them perfect for workouts, long battery life that will have you covered all day, 3 customizable sound profiles, earbud tap functionality, crystal clear call quality, and I'm recommending them, which means they must be good. So if you're ready to buy something small with a big impact, then click the link in the description below or go to buyraycon.com/TLP to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Buy yourself some Raycons now. So what are some of the negative effects of playing MMORPGs? I think the biggest and most obvious thing is addiction. Most of the problems related to MMOs come down to just putting too much time and energy into these games, and every sub-issue I'm about to mention, such as poor social skills, bad hygiene, unhealthy lifestyle, fucked up priorities and damaging your relationships, is ultimately down to addiction or lack of self-control in one way or another. The easy response to this is, just play MMOs casually, lol. Yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah, it is easier said than done. I can tell that when I was younger especially, it was way harder to control addiction. I can tell you that, like, you know, you get back from school and you have limited amount of time to play a game, and you know, like, the smart thing to do is to go and do your fucking homework before the next day. But hey, I've just been to school for I don't know how many hours now, and my friend just logged into RuneScape or like Counter-Strike or whatever game we were playing back in the day. So, you know, if I would not log in now, I would probably miss him, and I don't know where he will log back in. You know, back in the day, we also didn't have the privilege of using stuff like WhatsApp. We had like one old phones. Like back in the day, we did not have smartphones. Our phones were very, very dumb, and sending SMS was limited with characters numbers. And if you use a lot of characters, it would cost a lot of money. Yeah, so it wasn't the best experience. So you would only be able to communicate with people during the time they were at the computer. If they weren't at the computer, it would be a hassle to SMS somebody. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that, yeah, you know, like, you came back from school and you have a couple of hours before your mother tells you that you must go to sleep or she will, you know, yell at you. Which as a kid is supposed to be scary. At least it's better than getting whooped. So yeah, anyway. So you have, like, in one hand, like, doing your homework or getting ready for a test, or the other one, getting into RuneScape and leveling up a little bit. Maybe fighting some demons or some other monsters and doing some quests. And getting that sleek armor that you were looking for. So yeah, time management became an issue. So yeah, and I think that especially as a kid, I think this is less relevant now that we're adult because we have more pressing issues like paying the bills or stuff like that. But like when you are a kid, like you're not expected like to do too much with your life. I mean, aside from like school, and depends on the type of parents you have, maybe that's not a problem as well. So playing video game is a very very good way for a kid to feel a sense of accomplishment. Like when you're an adult, playing like games, like you have other stuff, like you have a girlfriend or a wife or kids or some other stuff that you need to manage. But when you were a kid, like you only go to school, and the only thing that you can brag about are your grades, which is not something that usually people are feeling so cool about. So actually being like a superhero and like kicking your friend's ass, or being like extremely high level, or doing those kind of stuff, or like reaching a very high level in a video game when you have a very limited amount of time, those kind of achievement, they add up and make you feel cool, especially when everybody around you play the same game. Like I don't know about you, but like if anybody had a chance to play like a RuneScape back in the day, at RuneScape, like there was, like most people would play the game free to play. So like if you were to see a player who is rocking dragon armor, this kid would be considered the rich kid. Like dragon armor was the same as like I don't know, going into somebody like running with a car of like I don't know, like Bugatti or some very like I don't know, I forgot what is the name of that car of like Elon Musk car thingy. I'm not very good when it comes to cars, so you'll have to forgive me. What was the name of that car? Oh man, I forgot. But anyway, like when you were a kid, like the sense of being rich was not presented like with a car or with a big house. It was presented with, oh, I've got rare cars at Yu-Gi-Oh, or I have a full dragon set at my bank, and I have some member items that you cannot wear, and I go specifically for a free-to-play world just to show you how fucking cool I am, because my father and mother give me money to buy membership at RuneScape. Yeah, when I was a kid, people were not using credit card often, so like my parents refused to pay for membership for me. So I remember, and this is not a joke by the way, I was dreaming, like when I went to sleep, I was dreaming about wearing dragon armor. That was considered an achievement. I remember the feeling of excitement of walking inside of my dream. My character is rocking the full dragon armor. It was, considered like, like being like Elon Musk or like Bill Gates, or, extremely like a rich guy. That was something.
MMOs by design are made in a way so that to achieve anything meaningful in-game, you need to put in a crap ton of time and energy into them. Sure, you can play MMOs casually and have a decent enough time with average progress, but if the game's really good, the sense of progression is spiking your dopamine in all the right ways, and you're in that MMO flow state, it's extremely easy to fall down the slippery slope of addiction, especially for people who aren't getting any sense of fulfillment in their real life. If you have a boring, stressful life, and the only dopamine you're getting comes from video games, then naturally it's much easier to become addicted, because you're not getting that good feeling from anything else. Eventually, once you're deep enough into an MMO, you might join a guild that pushes progression raiding or competitive PvP, and here you're basically signing up to play the game for a minimum amount of hours per week, because it's what the guild expects from you to keep up with the gearing requirements. Not all MMOs are like this. Guild Wars 2 is a good example of an MMO with no gear treadmill that you can jump in and out of whenever you like, and not really get addicted. But for most MMOs, especially at launch or during a new expansion, they're extremely addictive. Everything's new and exciting, you've got thousands of other players all pushing progression and leveling together, and you almost feel this push to race against them, or at the very least, keep up. Why do you feel this push? Well, if you fall behind, there's that fear that you won't be able to find groups or do the content that you want to do. That, as well as wanting to feel like you're a part of something, which is another feeling that a lot of MMO players lack in their real life. So what's the problem with being an MMO addict? If you're having fun, then it's not all that harmful, right? Well, that depends. Last year when Lost Ark first launched, I got so addicted to that game I literally could not sleep. Yes, I was having fun, but I didn't want to make YouTube content because I wanted to play Lost Ark. I didn't want to go to the gym, meet my friends, leave the house, give my girlfriend attention, or do anything else other than play Lost Ark. And when I did leave the house, my eyes were bloodshot red from looking at the screen all day. This has been the case with me in the past with so many different MMOs. RuneScape, WoW, Black Desert Online, New World, Lost Ark, Arcade, and so on. Whenever I've been addicted to an MMO, I've always been fully aware that this isn't healthy, but at the time I never seemed to care. It's easy to care more about what's going on in this parallel virtual life than what's going on in the real world, which occasionally...
Oh, hello. Okay, we lost the sound. I hate when this is happening, and this is always happening, which is the most annoying part. Like, I don't know why it always happens. Anyway, let's fix it now. Okay, now it should work.
So addiction isn't really that tied to fun or enjoyment. You can be addicted to a game that you no longer enjoy purely because you've invested so much time into it in the past. This is quite a depressing state to be in, because you're putting time into something but getting no enjoyment back. You're chasing the dopamine hits that got you into the MMO in the first place, but those rewards just don't feel the same. It's at this point where you should probably take a break or make better use of your time. Another common issue that MMO addicts generally face is poor social skills in real life. If you're spending all your time typing or talking to people online and not face to face, then you might not be very good at reading body language or have experience in certain social situations. This was a problem I had back in high school. I chose to play WoW and RuneScape over going to parties and meeting up with friends after school. This caused me to be very socially awkward in my late teens. I didn't really know how to talk to girls, I had no confidence, and I didn't want to leave my safe online space. This was compounded by the next negative aspect of being an MMO addict, the unhealthy lifestyle. When you're addicted to MMOs, the last thing you want to do is spend time away from the computer preparing healthy meals, working out at the gym, exercising, getting 8 hours of sleep, and seeing sunlight. This will obviously have a negative impact on your IRL character and perpetuate your self-confidence and social issues due to probably looking and feeling like shit all of the time. And this brings me to my final point: messed up priorities. Like a character in an RPG has mana or stamina, we all have a limited amount of willpower available to use each day in real life. Once that willpower is used up, you're done for the day. If you're addicted to MMOs, you're potentially using up all of your energy on a game that probably doesn't bring you a whole lot of happiness and fulfillment. Maybe you're unhappy with your current situation in life. Your job, your physical appearance, your relationships, the country you live in. You want to make a change, but you're using all your mental energy on a bullshit game that you no longer enjoy, that you'll have forgotten about in 2 years anyway. To summarize the negative aspects...
That point about a bullshit game, that is a point that I'm actually want to disagree with you about it. I think that people are overly stressing the fact that we need to always do, like, the only thing that, like, people have that kind of quote that say, if you were to die tomorrow, what would be the last thing you would want to do before you die? This is very stupid. I think that, like, a lot of the things that we do in life are things that will not have impact on our future. But that is a very complex kind of question that is, I don't know, it's very... like, why do people watch movies? Why do people listen to music? Why do people watch Twitch streamers? You know, like, we do a lot of stuff in our life that do not have a big impact on our futures, but I think that they are very important. Like, not very important in the long run, but like, people think that life is only about the future, but actually the future is just a small fraction of life. A lot of time we need to focus on the present. Actually, there are a lot of like, I'm no psychologist, but like, I like reading for pleasure, like psychology and research related stuff. And there is a big, like, war about whether being in the present or working to make your future better, which one is better happiness. But actually, though, there are very different types of happiness, and both of them, as far as we know right now, both of them are as important. So people, a lot of time, like, people are discrediting the present and saying, oh, instead of watching that stupid video or playing that stupid video game, you could do something that will actually make you make more money, or, I don't know, make your house looks better, or, I don't know, make you become more muscly. But like, when when you are at the present and you have those very cool muscles, they do not really make you any happier than if you didn't have them. It's not like saying that having muscles or like being healthy is bad. It is very good, very important, especially if you want to have a like longer lifespan. But when you are at the present moment, you don't really think about how long is your lifespan. That only impact you in the feeling of happiness about the future. Anyway, this is a very complicated subject that I feel inadequate to get into, but I think that people give too much. They are taking too seriously the importance of the future, and they don't think too much about the present. But actually, enjoyment of small things in the present, even things that will not be very important for your future self, they are as important as the future self. People don't give enough credit to it. So yeah, you should not feel bad about doing something in the present that will not influence your future. It's completely reasonable and makes sense, and the majority of people are not going to die tomorrow. So just have fun in the present. It's as important as the future. Actually, worrying too much about the future is also bad for you. And yeah, anyway, let's get back to the video.
Of MMOs, they're basically insanely addictive because they're able to give you a budget version of all the positive emotions you'd experience in real life. Being part of a group, feeling powerful, achieving goals, competing against other people, problem solving, and a long-term sense of progression where you quickly see the fruits of your hard work. With self-control, these aren't bad things, and it's why MMOs are so compelling, but it's
not only those are not bad things, I think they are actually good things. I think sometimes MMO can be an extension of real life. Like, if you were to spend time with your friends inside of an MMO, those type of friends that you have deep relationship with, or that you develop deeper relationship with using the MMO is just a tool. But the experience you're having with your friends, regardless of if you are having it within the video game itself. It's an experience that you are sharing together.
It's when you let MMOs take away your desire to achieve those emotions and experiences in real life, that's when things can go downhill. This is basically what happened with me from 2017 to 2018 when I let Black Desert Online take over my life. I had absolutely no desire to make friends IRL because I had my guildmates in BDO. I weighed 105 kilograms due to not working out and eating a gamer diet, and I didn't feel any urge to progress or make money because I was so focused on my progression in game. Eventually though, things changed, which brings me on to the next part of this video.
I think that, like, although I have a big respect for that guy, the Lazy Peon is a very, very interesting, and he has a lot of good takes about stuff. I tend to disagree a lot in this video, and I don't fully disagree. There is some part of me who do agree, as a person who did spend a lot of time playing video games and who used to be extremely introverted. I mean, like, I am still, like, I was born introverted, like, regardless, like, of social, like, you know, some people are, I think, I don't know how much science there is behind it, but I have a feeling there is some science behind it. Some people are born more introverted or more extroverted than others. So I am an introvert. I enjoy more, I get more satisfaction from deep and more focused and more like inside kind of activities than from actually like doing stuff at the outside. It's very hard for me to explain that thing, but like, what, anyway, what did I want to say? I got completely confused. I forgot, god damn it. Let me go back a little bit. What did I want to say? Don't believe it. Come on, let's see.
Urge to progress or make money because I was so focused on my progression in game.
Oh yeah, I think that the game is not the problem, but just the projection. Like, the game is used as a tool to escalate the problem. The game is not the problem itself. Now, there are situations in which I would say that the game is at fault. Like, when it comes to gambling, like, you know, you have all of those loot chests and stuff like that. In this game, in this case, the game is promoting the gambling and causes people who are prone to being gambling addicts to addict more. It is designed to be that way. But I think that when you feel like you want to isolate yourself from the world, or you're too afraid to make friends, or those kind of stuff, I think you're using the game just to shy away from the world and like not communicating and stuff like that. But it's not the game. I think those, like, people who are having those kind of experiences, it can be because of depression, or it can be because of some other stuff that happens in your life, which is completely valid. Those people, if game did not exist, if MMOs did not exist, would use other tools to still hide from society and hide from making friendship and doing those kind of stuff. You don't need to be an MMO nerd. You can be a book nerd, or, like, I don't know, movie nerd, or, like, I don't know, making your own Dungeons and Dragons and playing with your, I don't know. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that there are some situations in which I would say that MMOs are the fault for some people behaviors, and this is usually when the game is designed with the intention of causing you to do those kind of stuff. This usually happens when you're talking about loot chests and stuff like that promote gambling. But when you're talking about, like, stuff that the game was not designed, but you personally decided to use the game to behave in a certain way, that's on you. You just used the game to achieve that goal, or not achieve that goal. So yeah, I think he just was in a very bad situation in his life, which is very common. It happens to a lot of people, and the game just helped him keep on staying in that situation and not improving his life.
Eventually, though,
it's
things
not the
changed.
game itself, but the way that he used the game. The game was just a tool.
Which brings me on to the next part of this video, why I think MMOs can be quite good for you. First off, MMORPGs actually teach you a lot of skills that can be applied to the real world. Here's just a few examples. Guild leaders and raid leaders practice management skills, organisational skills, as well as staying calm under pressure. Learning how to flip items on the auction house not only teaches you how supply and demand works, but it also teaches you to look for niches in markets. I learned to be extra careful about trusting people on the internet and avoid scams after I got lured into the RuneScape wilderness for my entire bank at the age of 12 years old. If you're a top tier raider, you're learning how to follow complex instructions, work together with other people and solve problems. Many people who aren't native English speakers have basically taught themselves an entire language from playing MMOs, and many people have formed lasting relationships in real life with people that they've met in these games. But here's the best part. If you change your mindset to imagine that real life is an MMORPG, not only does it help you make better decisions, but it also helps you figure out what you want to get out of life. If real life had a user interface and you could see all of your stats, what would they be? If you could see yourself getting XP in real time and leveling up your skills, would that be more motivating to you? Every time you go to the gym, you're gaining a strength level. Every time you stick to a good habit, you're leveling up your discipline skill. The more people you talk to, you're leveling up your charisma. And as you're leveling up your IRL stats more and more, you unlock new quests that allow you to access new content. Perhaps traveling to new zones. Perhaps you unlock the girlfriend expansion.
The girlfriend
or you gain new
expansion,
abilities
oh
in
no.
the form of speaking new languages, snowboarding, mountain climbing, wilderness survival, and so on. This probably sounds ridiculous, but since I've adopted this mindset, my life has improved in so many different ways. You can literally open up Google Maps and ask yourself, if I was an avatar in a video game, what would be the best zone for me to level up in? This is why I decided to move to Thailand over 3 years ago. There's less open world PvP here than most other zones. The guild that runs this zone takes less of my money in taxes. Items at the general store are cheaper, and the weather is nice, which
Good
means I have less
biomes.
mental health debuffs throughout the year. MMO players are probably the smartest, most dedicated, and slightly autistic group of gamers out there. When a new MMO's coming out, they theory craft, speculate, invest time researching and planning out the optimal leveling routes before a game has even released, so that upon launch they achieve their goals as efficiently as possible. Can you imagine how powerful applying that same level of planning and efficiency would be to the real-life MMORPG?
Truth.
Literally, if you're unhappy with your situation, open up a notepad file and pretend that life is an MMO. What are your stats? Where are you questing? What type of content do you want to do when you reach endgame? Write down the different types of quests, features, content and expansions that might unlock once you hit certain stat requirements. The problem with the real-life MMO though is that you have a lot of resources to manage. It's basically an open-world, hardcore survival sandbox MMO, crossed with The Sims where you need to do a lot of character maintenance to regenerate your willpower and energy resources. Oh, and you can't max out every stat either, which means you need to be quite selective about how you spend your attribute points. Another thing that kinda sucks about the real-life MMO is that it's pretty pay to win. You can only unlock new mounts with gold and not via random drop, and if you're unlucky enough to start in one of the game's hardcore full loot PvP zones with bad starting attributes, then you're gonna have a much longer grind to reach the end game. So are MMORPGs actually bad for you? That depends. If you're someone that will prioritize your in-game avatar's progress over your real-life avatar's progress, then yes, potentially. Otherwise, no, not really. MMOs can teach you a lot about real life, and I've met tons of extremely successful people who grew up playing games like RuneScape, WoW, Ultima Online, EverQuest, and so on. Level up both your IRL and in-game characters at the same time for maximum dopamine rewards, and to also min-max your happiness levels. But that's it for this video guys. As always, let me know in the comments below if this was a dog shit video that made absolutely no sense, or perhaps you agree with me in thinking that viewing real life like an MMORPG has some actual value. If you want to follow my IRL character's progress towards achieving his goal of getting 99 strength, then join my Discord Gamer to Giga Chad linked below, where I post pictures every 2 days after a strength XP grinding session. I'm currently 3 months into this grind and have been pretty consistent. At this rate, I should achieve the 6-pack abs cosmetic unlock in about 2 to 3 months. Social media on screen, help us out with a like for the algorithm gods, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, that was a nice video. I really liked it. Anyway, so those were some very interesting videos right there. And yeah, I think I'm going to play play a little bit of not Elden Ring. I'm gonna play a little bit of Dark Souls 3 soon. So I'm gonna set up this stuff and take a little bit of a break before I'll do that. So I'll see you all guys later. Thank you so much for joining the stream and have a lovely day or night. Bye bye.